story of slavery in the Americas, but few of us know what an enormous trauma.
I try and share it with my students this morning that a peace treaty is something very interesting. It is something that is written by the victor and signed by the loser. History isn't that much different either. The agreed upon fable, propaganda. But when you look at it in the final analysis, the history that we have been taught in North America, specifically the United States, is propaganda. And propaganda is not a bad word, particularly when you understand its purpose. Its purpose is to maintain and perpetuate European values. But you see, what we must do, and what Dr. Van Sertima is going to do, is to show you that European values are fine. But when we look at the Western Hemisphere, we will become fully aware that there are some people here before Europeans. Way before Europeans. And they left their calling cards. You understand what I'm trying to say? And so hence when we start talking about the good old folks, the Europeans, and we begin to name them Columbus and Balboa and by being asked by the Nobel Committee of the Swedish Academy to nominate candidates for the Nobel Prize of the Journal of African Civilization. He was also visiting professor at Princeton University from 1981 through 1983. Please join me in giving Professor Van Sertima a royal welcome.
السلام عليكم جمعة وناكسن سيدا عاد أدنكم هادا عرفتين وحان كهاد لايا تاريخها أدونك دادك سومري أما وحا ليراهو هيستوريغا جغرافيغا لغو قاتي حتى اسكولا دي واغي آسو ديغا جرني محارونا محاسا كبانا محارجينا يا إنا فيرستين بروفيسور Ivan Fasetama nin la yiraahdo oo hadda mayga lagu soo dhaweynayay xoogaa Facebook asbariga la duubayo bari hore ahayd xoogaa shucaaca ku jiro saasaan wax yar hore ugu boogsiiyey jimco wanaagsan soo dhawaada maanta waxaa idin tusayaa taariikhaha qaarkood markii la dabagalay oo la baaray inay been ku soo baxeen waxaa taariikhahaas ka mid a waxna loogu soo dhigi jiray annaga iskoolka oo la yiraaho history ama taariikh ama geography labadaba waxaana loogu sheegay nin la yiraaho Columbus, Christopher Columbus inuu helay qaaradda la yiraaho Amerika waxay saasoo ahaataba sida hadda marka aad dib u fiiriso kilibkii hadda aan soo geliyey oo wax yar intaan hadlin iga hor oo ku saabsanaa doctor ama professor Fasetman oo u dhashay dalka la yiraahdo Guyana oo ka mid ah badweynta Atlantika jasiiradaha ku yaala u dhashay oo geologist ah oo taariikhista ah marka ninkaas markii uu baaray arrintaas waxaa caddaatay in maaragtay aysan jirin sheekada ah in nin la yiraaho Christopher Columbus uu helay meeshaan la yiraaho America wuuna beeniyey asaga iyo nin kale u dhashay waxaan jeclahay inuu u dhashay Sierra Leone oo la yidhaaho waxaa la yidhaahaa isagaa sheegi doona hadhow waxaa la yidhaahaa doctor ado diof aa la yidhaahdaa oo ka shaqayn jiray libraryga maxaa la yidhaahaa radio active libraryga ugu weyn oo faransiiska meelo saas ka shaqayn jiray oo hadda dhinta allah u naxariisto labadaba waxay beeniyeen in nin iska socdaa uu qaarad keligiis iska helay waxayna ku beeniyeen maadaama qaaradda uu sheegtay inuu helay maadaama dad ay jireen meeshaas ku noolaayeen marka taas ayay caddeeyeen in dad jiray meesha ku noolaa isaga hortiis isagana uusan helin americana uu tegin ee uu tegay meel la yidhaaho hindiya isagoo america aada isleh dabaylo qaadeen oo hindiya ka dhacay dadkii la saarnaana uu handaday uu yidhi carabkaa idinka goynaa haddaa sheegtiin meeshaan tegay aan idin kala dhex baxo wax yar ajar maxaa la yidhaha kilibka waa kilib hore facebook hore xoogaa laciif waaye wariqaa ku jirto laakiin ilcamuum wuxuu sheegayaa fansetaman oo isagana sidoo kaleeto dhalashada netherlandna haysta sababtoo ah jasiiradaas guyana ee isaga uu ku dhashay waxaa haystay dowladda netherland shalamahayna dorad ayana dhalashadiisa ahayd wuxuu beeniyey oo laga saaray UNDP-ga waxay ka saareen in Christopher Columbus uu soo helay meesha la yidhaha America marka idin kala dhex baxo adinka iyo fansetaman hadhowna wax yar anaa dib idinkaga fasiri doono waxay aa fahmi weysiin kusoo dhawaada
When I had completed and published my major work, they came before Columbus. You can say apart
waxaan bilaabay oo aan dhamaystiray uu dhahay sheekada ku saabsan Columbus
from the vituperation, could you make a point that shows that it is a myth? And he made the point that I had mixed up pyramid through pyramid, which in fact is not true because they have x-rayed the pyramid and they have found steps inside of the true pyramid. In other words, the steps remain at the core of the structure. But that is not what amazed me so much. What amazed me is that the New York Times have gone over all the American reviewers, people who had done serious work in American history. People who had done serious work in Africa to pick a man who had never done work in either field. A man who for the last 10 years before he wrote this review was writing novels in the genre Ellery Queen, who had never visited these archaeological sites and was merely a Britisher attacking a colonial. This is at the root of a great deal of things. Because the colonization of man in the Americas and in Africa does not stop with slavery or second-class citizenship. We are not speaking on these which we appear to have broken. We are speaking chains from which we are not yet free. We are speaking of the colonization of the imagination. And it became clear to me after looking at those attacks and after being involved in that controversy for many years, it became clear to me how absolutely vital it was that we should have a news of particularly where from the kinds of criticisms that fell upon me that we really very few of us have any idea of what the Africans were involved in slavery. All of us know, for example, the familiar story of slavery in America. But few of us know who has spent that much time in the jungle. There is not a single high culture, not a single civilization in Africa that grew up in the jungle. Whether it is the Ethiopian civilization or the classical Egyptian civilization or the Tariikho in North Africa or the Afro-Phoenician civilization of Carthage or Ghana, Mali or Songhai in West Africa or Monomotapa, the seat of an empire, stumbled into the Caribbean looking for gold, thinking they were in Asia. Just as the reported that the people were being called the edge of America. Columbus never jungle, and I'm not talking about little bush. Shadow, while its broken bones were put on spectacular display. Therefore, it is only within recent times that we find that we find melting machine. Only within recent times that we find that Africans are involved in complex astronomy. Before I speak about their astronomy, their medicine, their scripts, their metallurgy and other aspects of their science. Let me say something about how this picture came about. Africa literally disintegrated under centuries of onslaught without. Not only America, most of us have no idea what America was. When I was growing up as a boy, I grew up among primitive Native Americans. I had no idea then, as I grew up amongst them, that behind me lay the heights of Machu Picchu. A city carved out of sheer rock, calling for technological ingenuity unparalleled in the world. I had no idea of my cousins in Mexico. It was Cortez, not Columbus, who gave us some idea of the technological complexity of the heartland of America. Columbus wandered among the primitives on the edge of America. Columbus never set his foot on the American continent.
wuxuu leeyahay Columbus weligiis cagta ma dhigin meel ka mid ah Mareykanka. Marka beenti Columbus uu daba socdaa taariikhdaas oo qof walba loo soo qoray waqtigii tegey ama 20kii 30kii sano ee tegey 86dii wixii ka horeeyay iyo wixii ka dambeeyay way sii socotay Afrikana in laga dhigtaa taariikhdaas weli aan u malaynaa mana hubo marka aan dhageysano waxay.
On his third voyage, on August the 7th, 1498, three of his
wuxuu yidhi safarkiisii saddexaad 1900
a city carved out of calling for technological ingenuity unparalleled in the world. I had no idea of my cousins in Mexico. It was Cortez, not Columbus, who gave us some idea of the technological complexity, the heartland of America. Columbus wandered among the primitives on the edge of America. Columbus never once set his foot on the American continent. On his third voyage, on August the 7th, 1498, three of his ships landed in South America.
1498 Agosto 1798 ninka la yidhaha Columbus weligiis cag ma dhigin Mareykanka laakiin wuxuu yimid agagaarka qaaradda geesaheeda meelaha fogfog Mexico iyo meelahaas uu yimid laakiin qaaradda Amerika la yidhaaho oo Mareykanka iyo dhulkaas weyn mausan gaarin.
America. He did not come off the ship. He said he had arthritis. Did not come off the ship. Sent the landing party.
Kabkana kama soo degin. Hataa markii uu yimid meesha Hindiga, qaaradda Hindiya, maxaa la yidhaahaa ayuu helay. Marka taasoo wuxuu ku kahay Mareykanka, laakiin taas lafteeda hataa kama soo degin marka.
Aboard, and a few days later, when he got into the Caribbean, he reported back on a mailboat to Spain that
kadib maalmo kadib wuxuu soo gaaray meeshan Caribbean-ka la yiraaho oo aydan Mareykanka meelihiisa soo ka ah kadibna dib ugu noqday Spain.
South America was an island. Just as the landmass he struck with an
Mareykanka inay tahay jasiirad
island. Island, just as he had reported earlier that Cuba was the continent, just as he reported earlier that he was in India, just as he reported earlier that the people were being called Caribbean, comes from Caraib, which means foreigner. They were calling the Spanish Caraib. These clowns, who knew nothing about linguistics or geography,
marka wuxuu leeyahay nimanka majaajilistayaasha wuxuu ka wadaa dadkii doonta saarnaa oo Columbus la jiray ma kala yaqaaniin uu dhahay luqadaha adduunka ka jira xataa
had no advanced science, stumbled into the Caribbean looking for gold, thinking they were in Asia. Columbus never saw the complexity of the Americans. It was Cortez, the first modern European of that Columbus era, who reported on what he saw in the core and heartland and
nin la yidhaha Cortez oo asaga ka dambeeyey waqtigii wax la sahmin jiray oo Cortez la yidhaaho ama ka fiicnaa oo wax badan intuu dadkii dhex galay oo degay arkay oo soo bandhigay
center of American civilization. And Cortez said, and I quote him, "When I saw their pyramids and
Cortez asagoo ka hadlaya Maraykanka ilbaxnimadiisa wuxuu dhahay markaan arkay pyramidiska ay dhiseen pyramid waxaa la yidhaahaa waxyaabahan Masar ku dhisan buuraha waaweyn oo saddex geeska qaar noocaas oo kale ah oo Aztec qolo la yidhaha iyo ay dhiseen oo Maraykanka deganaa oo hindidii ahaa dadkii la cirib tiray ee Maraykanka ayaa qaaradda ku baahsanaa marka meelo badan ay waxay ka dhiseen sida Egyptianka meelo oo taalooyin u ah laakiin jaranjaro leh oo dheer oo qurux badan oo waaweyn
their palaces and their temples and their floating gardens, the chinampas, the most advanced agricultural technique then in the world, known only in medieval Ghana, and the pantheon of gods of the Egyptians, all the religious, political and scientific traditions that were to make classical Egypt the beginnings of the pharaonic thing is found in Nubia at Custor, 200 years before it even begins to take a shape and to be carried forward into Egypt. We have even found the hieroglyphs, which we thought was Egyptian in origin. It was merely refined further by the Africans as they moved up in Egypt. We find the hieroglyphs at Custor in Nubia. One of the world's most significant writing systems. Significant because it was to affect not only Africans, it was to have an influence also on some of the European writing systems. We are supposed to be the pre-literates. When I was going to London University, the School of Oriental and African Studies, they always refer to Africans as pre-literates. There's something missing in our brain. We learn to write late. No, sir. No, sir. Africans had at least half a dozen scripts before they were touched by Europe. They built the hieroglyphic script and the oldest books in the world, of which we still have fragments in spite of massive destruction in the long span of time. The oldest medical texts and the oldest mathematical texts in the world are African. There is no doubt about it. Absolutely none. This is not speculative, romantic myth-making. These are the facts. Not only did they have the hieroglyphic script, which we find originated among the blacks prior to their movement up with it in Egypt, they have found also the Meroitic script. We have found 800 and something texts in that. It has not yet been deciphered. We have the Akan script, both the drum script, which is highly complex, because Africans are the only people who created drums that could mimic the human voice. So they have both a drum script in Akan as well as a written script in Akan. They have the Afaka script, which I found people in Suriname in 1981 were writing letters to their girlfriend in the Afaka script, which they had brought with them to the Americas. That was unusual because most Africans lost their scripts. Those who did have scripts lost them in the Middle Passage, but they had made the mistake of bringing a whole tribe, a whole body of people into Suriname. That's why they were able to revolt. They could communicate with each other, whereas the normal practice with slaves is that you separate them so they could start fighting among each other, or at least not have any proper communication. and also the Manding script, which Professor Winters and Howe and Delafors have shown to be pre-European, pre-colonial period, Mandings running through the Sahara, touching parts of the Ethiopian and even the Egyptian world. Those are just a few. And people say, yes, but if they had scripts, why didn't they write books? They wrote books. The Library of Alexandria is estimated at least 500,000 books. It was systematically destroyed. The Moors had books. Not all of them were black, but most of them, especially in the Almoravid and Almohadi dynasties, the four Muslim dynasties in Europe, they wrote books. In 1492, the year Columbus sailed, when Cardinal Ximenes, attacking Granada, ordered, after they defeated Granada, Cardinal Ximenes ordered every book in Arabic to be burned. At the time when most Africans and Arabs and even the Jews in Spain and Portugal wrote in Arabic, they burnt them all. Only a few fragments survived. Timbuktu was razed to the ground twice. Only recently the Arabs have found scraps and fragments coming from the University of Timbuktu. So it's not a question of not writing books. Only a few people wrote, even in Europe. When the Muslims invaded Europe, it is estimated that 99% of the Europeans were illiterate. This is in 711 AD. 99%. The European Christians had 2 universities, the Muslims introduced 17. In Europe, 17 universities. Everything that was of value throughout the civilized world. In Africa, particularly in Egypt, in Greece, which had borrowed so heavily from the Egyptians, in Persia, in China, in India, everything they could put their hands upon, the Muslims had translated into Arabic and shared it with the Europeans. It was not an invasion at all, like the invasion that struck Africa and decimated the population and disintegrated the national and familial networks. The Moors did not attempt to destroy the culture of Europe. They did not take away the tongues of the Europeans. They did not stop them selecting their judges and their courts. They did not interfere with their civil administration. They did not tell them that they could not believe in Jesus because Jesus had been incorporated into the Mohammedan world as a prophet just like Muhammad. All they asked is that they should have a say in the selection of bishops. Hence, it is in the heart of Europe, at the time when it was in the twilight, after the great strides of the Greeks and the Romans, when Europe was in twilight, the attacks from Africa and the Arab world brought about a composite of world science. From India, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Europeans were not using ciphers and numbers. The Greeks and the Romans used letters for numbers. Those numbers came from the Hindu, brought by the Muslims. Fibonacci in 1202 visited India, brought in the numbers. The Europeans would not accept it. The church said their numbers are works of the devil. That is the level of science. The few European geniuses who struck out, they
saad la socoteen taariikh dheer oo fara badan oo ninkan ka sheekeeyey ilbaxnimadii ay lahaayeen dadka Afrikaanka ah iyo waxyaabihii ay qabsadeen intaba uu ka sheekeeyey. Marka waxyaabaha oo loo sheego dadka in Yurub ay dadka horumar gaarsiisay ama ay meelo aan hore loo aqoonin ay ayagu soo heleen sida Columbus oo kale, waxaas oo dhan uu beeninayaa. Ka horna in ilbaxnimo ay jirtay Columbus iyo dadka la mid ah ayuu ka sheekeynayaa. Taas macnaha waxaa uga jeeda waxa waaye taariikhaha qaarkood markii dib loo raaco wax ka runa ma jiraan, inta badan waxay u badan yihiin been. Marka waa ila fahamteen aan u malaynaa. Janaladayda inta badanna waxay waxay ku saabsan tahay taariikhdii SYL yaa xorriyadda dalka keenay, Soomaali dhankay xorriyadda ka timid ilaa heerkay gaartay ilaa iyo maaragtay meesha ugu dambayso Soomaalida ma gaartay ma gaarin, waxyaabahaasaan ka sheekeynayay iyo qolo aniga aan inta badan ku sheego ama janalkeyduba uu ku saabsan yahay 26 Juun meel ka mid ah Soomaaliya oo xorowday ma jirto, hadday meel jirto xorowdayna waxaa xoreeyey SYL. marka dib aan isugu soo noqon doonaa haddii ilaahay idmo, salaadii jimcaha igu soo fool leh, waxaan idin rajaynayaa jimco wanaagsan. Subscribe saara maxaa la yidhaahaa facebookgayga, aan dhehe youtubekayga, facebookgana like iyo shareka iyo commentiga ugu dadaala, aadaan umahadsantihiin. in yaroo koobanaan kasoo qaadan doonaa marka xigto oo ah sheekadii asaga iyo Addo Diouf nin la yidhaaho oo u dhashay asna Africa, u dhashay maxaa la yidhaahaa Sierra Leone inuu u dhashay aan jecelahay, oo islaama oo asna geologist ah sida ninkan oo kale, ayaa 1986 markaad dib u fiiriso markaad wax yar dib u fiiriso clipkii aan soo qaatay facebooka ninkan uu ka hadlayay, inkastoo waqti hore la duubay markaas Facebook dib laga soo geliyey. taariikhda waxaa ku arkaysaa 1986 UNDP waxay ka saartay taariikhdii sheegi jirtay in Columbus uu helay Amerika, oo Amerika lafteeda laga xusi jiray 1986 ugu dambeysay. taas macnaha aan uga jeedo waxa waaye 26 Juun ee aan bilaaban 60kii adig markii kacaanka uu dhashay kadib soo xoogeysatay, 26 Juun in la sheego xilligii SYL iyo lixdameeyadii 26 Juun wax la yidhaaho lagama sheekeyn jirin, lamana xusi jirin. dadka oo 26 Juun labinteeda lena waa SYL, ma aha waqooyi, waa koonfur. SYL 13ka SYL ahna inta badan waa koonfurta Soomaaliya. waa mahadsantihiin, jimco wanaagsan. ha iloobina inaad subscribe tirahay youtubekayga, maxaa la yidhaha facebookgayga na aad like saartaan, share garaysaan, commentina igu soo qortaan siday adinka idinla tahay. aadaan umahadsantihiin, jimco wanaagsan aan idin rajaynayaa insha Allah. wasalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi wabarakaatuhu. qayb yar oo clip yar oo waxaan idiin soo qaadayaa marka socdaalkii asaga iyo Addo Diouf ay ku tageen United Nationka New York si loo tirtiro taariikhdii Columbus. waa mahadsantihiin, wasalaam.